Hello. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the holster here. And I hope I don't make anyone else too uncomfortable. I tend to pace a lot and have a lot of nervous energy when I talk. So if you see me moving around, don't be caught off guard. We've got a great panel here today. Marshall Freeman from the Atlanta Police Foundation, Cadell Hall with the City of East Point, Tony Harrell with Gwinnett County Government, and Mr. Jeffrey Reeves with the City of East Point. So we'll have each of them do a quick introduction in just a moment. Again, my name is Kevin Taylor. I'm the Segment Development Manager for Access Communications, where we continually innovate for a smarter, safer, and more secure world. If you don't know our organization, we're out in one of the display tables out there. We'd love to have a talk with you. What we're best known for is making surveillance products that are commonly used in physical security, but also public safety, emergency response, traffic management, and environmental sensing and monitoring. So it's a little bit about what we do. I'm going to give each of the panelists here a minute, 2 minutes to just kind of introduce themselves, name, what organization they're with again, and kind of an explanation of what they do within that organization. Marshall, you want to start us off?
Morning, everybody. Marshall Freeman, Chief Operating Officer at the Atlanta Police Foundation. We are a nonprofit here in the city of Atlanta that is partnered with the city of Atlanta as well as the police department. And so collectively, all three organizations make decisions here in the city around programs and initiatives that reduce crime here in the city. And so we have a really big footprint of about 36 different programs here in the city of Atlanta. And I know the big one that we'll be talking about today is our footprint within technology. And so the city of Atlanta has obviously built one of the most sophisticated and intelligent camera networks here in the entire country. And so it's a program that has been led by the Police Foundation. So I know we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cadell Hall. I'm the Transportation Division Manager for the Public Works Department in the city of East Point, which is located in the Tri-Cities area of East Point, College Park, Hapeville. Manage all of the transportation projects for the city, including our capital projects, our federal projects, GDOT, as well as our SPLOST program in the city of East Point.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Harrell. I'm with Gwinnett County Government, Business Strategic Services. Basically what I am is an IT manager that marries the IT assets with our public works within the county. And it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm not techie, so I have to steal this mic. Hi, I'm Jeff Reeves, City of East Point Public Works Director. Cadell pretty much highlighted what we do over there. He's also our Assistant Director of Public Works. I'm glad to be here returning as a panelist, so just glad to be here today.
Great, thank you all so much and appreciate your time and contributions to this panel. So our discussion today is about managing technology products across departments and that involve or require multiple stakeholder collaboration in order to achieve the outcomes of those projects. So one of the things that we deal with at Access Communications, particularly in the physical security and the emergency response world, is we learned the concept of really kind of pre-planning for the unplanned. And one of the things that you never want to be caught in a situation of is being in some type of tactical response or some type of emergency response where key stakeholders find themselves at the moment where things have to be done rapidly and with urgency and are critical of nature, and they're exchanging business cards and getting to know each other. So it's really important to be proactive in how you're building your personal network, your personal brand, and working with other potential stakeholders that you would network with at a point of critical response. So I know each of you have some experience kind of in professional associations and what you do across agencies to really network with other key stakeholders on a preemptive basis. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I think for us, obviously the collaboration and the partnerships become really important to what we do. Here again, the Police Foundation has a board of about 58 folks here in the city that are the who's who, the CEO or president of every major corporation in this town. And so when we think about how we leverage the corporate community in order to support the efforts of public safety and the police department, that relationship becomes really critical. And so again, we may have, I think about a person like Georgia Power, who we were having a discussion with earlier, our power partner here in the city of Atlanta. That's important when we think about making sure that we have sensors and cameras and things that are on poles throughout the city, and they're all working and effective in the time of a crisis. We try to be proactive to make sure those relationships and everything are intact. And then when I think about expanding beyond that, again, just being a person that continues to go out and try to build relationships. I sit in Midtown Atlanta Rotary. I sit on Mayor Dickens. He has an LGBTQ advisory board. I sit on that board. I also sit on the board for Inspire Brands, which is the owner of Arby's, Sonic, Buffalo Wild Wings, Jimmy John's, Dunkin', and Baskin. And so we try to, again, make sure that we just forge those partnerships throughout the country, throughout the city of Atlanta, all for the idea of benefiting public safety, and leveraging that here in this region is important.
Thanks for making me hungry. Appreciate it. Let's pass the mic down to Cadell. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm a bad part-time comedian, by the way.
Yeah, so I think, as you said, I think it's important to establish the relationships with stakeholders prior to there being a need to. Forming the relationships with, the neighboring municipalities, the state agencies, whoever it may be, the counties as well, ahead of time, have those things set in place so that you all have the contacts, who to contact and deal with, as well as private industries as well, having the contracts in place. So when there's an emergency that comes up, you already have things in place to move on it quickly. So I think that's some of the things we do in advance to prepare for a quick response.
Yes, as Cadell mentioned, what we normally have is our internal customers. We have our emergency response team, which is our police, fire, public works, electric department. We do our electric in East Point. And we also have MOUs with our neighboring communities of Hateville and College Park, where our police and fire, if in need, each one of those can reach out to each other in any kind of case for emergency.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too that, although that we are with government agencies and things like that, and Ken is with, private sector. Remember also in the government agencies, even though we plan and we make decisions about how to spend taxpayers' monies, the actual taxpayer, the citizen, is one of the stakeholders always, and they're the first stakeholder, and they're the first people that are going to be affected by any type of work that is done across multiple projects, and increasing or actually facilitating the running of a county or a city or a municipality, and so on and so forth. So remember that also the private sector is always the first line of stakeholders.
I think that's a great point. And, we hear that phrases like citizen-centric governance, and also to kind of work that from the opposite direction is not using technology for the sake of technology, but what actual outcome is it delivering, and what purpose is it serving the community is really important. So now that you've had a chance to kind of get to know our panelists a little bit, and hear from them, I have some questions that I'll pose to them, but we want this to be as interactive as possible. So don't hesitate if you have a question. And again, Marshall, with experience as a strategic partner to the Atlanta Police Department and their efforts on public safety emergency response. Our friends from East Point, Cadell and Jeffrey, particularly in the transportation mobility space, and then Tony in the IT business administration. So we've got a really good collection. So if you have questions about any of those particular kind of silos or groupings within local government, feel free to throw your hand up, and we'll entertain questions as we go along. The first one that I have is, especially when we look at transportation and framing this in the concept of that multi-stakeholder, multi-department collaboration. Whether you guys are aware of it or not, most roads don't begin and end at city limits. They tend to go through a lot of municipalities, towns, cities, counties. So it's not always a single agency that has absolute control over that corridor. So Cadell and Jeffrey, do you have any experience in that, and how do you work with other agencies, whether it's other local municipalities or possibly state associations or agencies?
Well, we have two state routes that come through East Point, and Cadell can elaborate on those as well. But we also, during emergency situations, we correspond with them, communicate with them in reference to snow removal or ice removal at those locations, because they run through our city and our municipality. So we connect with them so we can assist them on those roles.
And in our particular case, like I said, we live in an area where the city limits are from 5 feet to another, may change hundreds of times throughout the city between maybe the city of Atlanta, College Park, Hateville, East Point, as well as we're right there near the airport area. So to the average user, they may not know where to determine where they are. So we have to be constantly coordinating with all the cities to make sure that we're implementing our improvements together, potentially, hopefully, as well as being able to have technology that communicates together. So I think it's important that if we're doing signal modifications, for instance, that we're all using similar equipment that may be able to communicate, or which we've been doing lately through GDOT has the RTOP program. I think it's currently changing to SIGOPS now, where they're reaching out to the cities and putting the controllers in place that communicates well across the whole state on the same type of platform.
So I'm curious, as you say, having similar types of equipment to work across agencies. One of the things that we focus on as a technology provider is bringing to market products that are of what we would call an open architecture standpoint, complying to open standards and protocols, so that end users have the ability to continue to make choices about their purchasing decisions and not be locked into what would potentially be called a proprietary solution. So how do you manage that from a transportation segment, and as you're looking at products, ITS products and solutions, do you find yourself having to choose between feature sets and product capabilities versus open architecture and forward mobility?
Well, like I said, I think it takes some foresight to look at best practices. What are some of the maybe agencies where you're trying to be using? What's kind of the standard, like I said, across the state? What is our Department of Transportation using, and try to implement the similar technology to make sure that we're complying and working along to have the same type of technology that's open to more than just our own use. So that's kind of some of the things we're using, looking at best practices. What is the industry using in our state?
And in the purchasing process, to try to expedite some of the process, we go on our state contracts. As a government, we can go on a state contract. Someone else, another government or municipality already has something, or the state contract to make purchases. I know you mentioned about sole source at some point. You kind of try to stay away from the sole source as much as you possibly can, unless it's a product or something that basically they produce and they can repair. Because you want to be able to spend the money well. Okay, you make sure your money's spent well and good steward. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and Marshall.
Yeah, just a side note on that open architecture part of it, I think for us, that's been something that's really important. It's been important to the strategic growth of the camera network and the surveillance network here in the city of Atlanta, because when we think about crime and where things happen and criminals, they don't know, again, county lines, or they don't care about things like that. And so it really crosses jurisdictions throughout the entire region. And so I think it's just important that we can continue to collaborate with, again, East Point, with Gwinnett County, with Cobb County, and everyone else that's in the region. And we do that in a way in which we don't necessarily buy a product that doesn't speak to and supportive of everyone else. And so I think the more we can continue to lean on things that are designed in an open architecture way would be better for every single region throughout the country.
And Tony, I know that you have a long career history in the private sector and are a little bit newer into the public sector and public administration, but staying on this concept of open architecture, you have a background in data science and analytics. How important is it to you that these data sets, as they're collected, are navigable and can kind of port across each other, and that you can use those for digital transformation stance of making data-driven decisions?
It's extremely important, and it's becoming more and more important as we move forward in time. Machine learning now is becoming common, and there's actually county initiatives to use machine learning now to do things like traffic monitoring, traffic planning, protecting school zones, setting speed limit boundaries. things like that, even all the way down to putting speed bumps in neighborhoods. You know, doing research on that to find out if it's feasible to do that and what's the return and investment on that. I think very much so keeping schools safe, obviously, and keeping neighborhoods safe is the driving factor behind some of that. Just from a traffic, you know, and road management standpoint, that's one of the things that's moving forward.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about public safety, about traffic, transportation, mobility, but I believe you have a video also of an economic development initiative in East Gwinnett.
Yes, Gwinnett is actually partnering with the major colleges and universities in Georgia, as well as some of the Fortune 5 companies that are located and headquartered in Atlanta, to build out basically a new research central hub in East Gwinnett. And I'm not sure if the video will play, but if we can. It's just
Ken, are we able to play that video?
Just a short 2-minute video to tell you a little bit about it.
My eyes aren't that good. Was that a thumbs up or was that a cut? I think that was a thumbs up. We should have a video upcoming.
And Kevin, just to add into the what we talked about, the traffic monitoring, I know East Point just invested in some of the school monitoring, traffic monitoring, and the presentation that they gave to us exposed the fact that they can track the license plates, not only just for speeding in the school zone, but to also maybe track criminals who might be out there traveling through your neighborhood, your community. As well as Marshall said, they're transferring, they're leaving East Point, going into Atlanta, and the traffic cameras pick it up. They can communicate with them, saying, hey, you got this guy, you know, is out there, and this is someone we're looking for. So I think that part works in well with Tony was talking about.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring up, so license plate, we call that ALPR, automatic license plate recognition. This is really a hot topic in public safety. Police departments all across the country are really, really highly in tune with this. There are some kind of policy issues that should be addressed. Maybe Marshall, this is something you'll have comment on. I don't know if your comments will align with mine. It's perfectly fine to contradict me. But you know, just because you can use technology doesn't mean you always should use technology. And when you do use technology, it doesn't mean it should be wielded with an unbridled sword. So, you know, there should probably be some governance framework around this. And if you're using something like ALPR, is it used ethically in the way that the community would want it used? If you're looking for vehicles that are associated to, say, a Part 1 crime or a registered stolen vehicle, things of that nature, that's something that generally the community gets behind. If you're using it to track people who have parking tickets or allowing that data to be shared from a personally identifiable information standpoint so that someone could be tracked throughout a community, then that's another issue that probably should be addressed through governance. How does the city of East Point or the city of Atlanta deal with these type of things?
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think you're right. For us, I think when we stood up the camera network, again, you flash all the way back to 2012 when we went up with the initial set of cameras here in the city, setting proper SOPs or standard operating procedures, and the rules and regulations of how the cameras and the LPRs were going to be used in the city was really important. And the first thing we did was socialize that with the community and really got the community buy-in so everybody understood that, hey, these are not speed trap cameras. They're not tracking you for speed. We're not tracking people in that sense. Even if you think about the Atlanta Police Department today, it's a department that, you know, is 400 officers short of their authorized strength. So they're not out tracking a person for a parking ticket. This is trying to get the worst of the worst criminal who may have committed a felony or a murder or something like that. That's how the camera network is used. And I think the community understood that early. We expressed it to the community earlier. That way they also adopted the camera network as their own. And so it's been a really good partnership for us when we think about the community buy-in to how technology has been adopted in the city.
So it's funny, that actually goes right back to Tony's very first point when we talked about this, that the citizen is the first stakeholder, right?
Yeah, and to add to your point too, there's there's initiatives now to drive home security cameras, sharing that information with your local government, because your home Ring camera may have caught something where there's not a county or city security camera in the area.
So there was, and I'm not going to say it was that vendor. I'm not trying to associate a particular vendor to this, but there was a news story recently where one of those home surveillance cameras, the company that offers those was without authorization from the homeowner, sharing video with the municipality and with the law enforcement. So again, we go back to that ethical issue. Whose data is that, and who has the right to share and who has the right to access it? So just because there's a camera there, does that mean that the city should automatically get access to it?
So I think that goes back to the conversation about the community, though, because it starts there. So we recently rolled out at the top of this year a program called Connect Atlanta that allows community members, businesses, and everyone to go to Connect Atlanta, and you really decide the level of privacy and the level of permissions that you'd like to give to the police department. And I think that's important. You can go there and say, hey, I want to register my camera. I want you to know that I have a Ring camera or ADT or whatever system at my house. I'm not comfortable with giving the police department access to it in real time, but I want you to know I have a camera. In the event that something happens, then you have a way to reach me. And that's, again, level one. It goes all the way from there to completely full integrating and them having access to it, at their disposal. So again, I think it just goes back to the relationship with the community where you allow them to be in the driver's seat and have that permission and that control.
Did we buy enough time there? Did we get that video up and ready to play by chance? No, I'm getting a no. Okay, no. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Rowan project, and maybe we'll go to each panelist, and if there's a particular project initiative, whether it's something that was recently done or that's on the planning books, and again, kind of putting this into the context of collaboration across multiple stakeholders and what it takes to put these together.
Exactly. I can't tell you a whole lot about it yet. It's still in the development stage and early development. But basically, this would be like a technology hub, kind of like that's in Raleigh, right?
Yeah, technology corridor, yes.
Yeah, a technology corridor, and it's in partnership with Emory University, the University of Georgia, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, and it's also, like I said, married up with a couple of Fortune 5 companies that are headquartered here in Atlanta. I can't name the companies at this time. There's actually a website for it if you'd like to see it or learn more about it. It's called Rowan Life, and that's ROWENLIFE.com, and it'll tell you more about it. But basically, in eastern Gwinnett County, along the 316 corridor there, they're gonna develop a actual facility for research. There's going to be living quarters there and so on and so forth. And this is a multi-statewide initiative basically driving, but Gwinnett County government is driving it. And it's going to generate jobs and revenue and stuff like that for the local area as well as for the greater Atlanta area.
It sounds like a really exciting project, and it also kind of brings back this notion of economic development. I think we heard some of that in some of the earlier panels, but at the end of the day, to have a healthy and thriving community, there has to be economic growth and opportunities for the citizens, and so I think that's a key point. Cadell and Jeffrey, any particular projects that you want to talk about, either something that was recently done or something that's maybe planned or on the books that you're looking to grow in East Point?
So I can kind of elaborate. I mentioned earlier our collaboration with RTOP, which is now SIGOPS, when they all of the signals in the East Point have been upgraded. So prior to that, so now the Department of Transportation or SIGOPS is seeing the same response to our signals that we are. So when we're having flashing reds or signals out, we have an extra layer of collaboration with this, RTOP on getting our signals back up in operation. So it's really helped our response time, as well as have, like I said, a second set of eyes on us and have the ability to reset our signals or to help reprogram them. They actually came in and did studies on our signal operations and recommended reprogramming and retiming them. So that's one of the more recent things we've done at East Point, just having collaboration with the state agencies on improving our operations.
So, and I'll say I've had some experience over the years working with Georgia Department of Transportation and seeing some of the workings of RTOP. But I talk to other state agencies across the country. RTOP, the Regional Transportation Operations Program, is uniquely Georgia. There may be other states that do something similar, but I talk to so many other either city or county, either public works department stakeholders or Department of Transportation stakeholders or state, and they don't necessarily in other states have a consolidated program that allows cross-departmental collaboration to effectively manage these corridors. I was in a city in Texas recently where this was an extreme pain point that they had major corridors come through, but you would travel 6 intersections or 6 signal controlled intersections, and all of a sudden the timing pattern was done on a completely different scenario, and the management of that corridor was not streamlined or uniform. So what we have in Georgia is somewhat unique, and I know people love to complain about traffic, but I know that the Georgia Department of Transportation folks work really hard at minimizing it and making it as good as it possibly can be. Marshall, anything you want to share on a particular project or initiatives and what's going on within the city of Atlanta and the Police Foundation?
Yeah, so our biggest thing right now is we plan strategy for the next 3 years, and so over the next 3 years we have a $90 million campaign that we're doing right now to invest that into public safety here. And again, that ranges from everything from cameras, technology. We recently built a first in the nation apartment complex for police recruits. We also have youth centers that we have built throughout the city of Atlanta. We have 3 currently, and we're getting ready to build 2 more of those as well. We're also doing the first take-home car program for the city of Atlanta as well, which has been a big pain point for continuing to retain officers here in the city of Atlanta. And then we obviously have recently increased the amount of training in which we give to the department. If you imagine here in the state of Georgia, in order to be a police officer, it takes just about 600 or so hours of training in order to be an officer. The city of Atlanta takes about 1,080, and so that delta between the 600 and the 1,080 is all paid for and funded by the Police Foundation. And so we continue to obviously make sure that we increase the amount of training that the officers are getting. And so that's our plan for the next 3 years. And so it's exciting times for us. Obviously, it's definitely needed in today's environment as well. So we're proud of the work that we do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all have heard a little bit about some of the projects that each of our panelists have going on. We've got a few minutes left, so are there any questions from the audience? Anybody want to ask something to one or all of the panelists? And again, we've got stakeholders both from the public safety emergency response, transportation, and IT and technology, administration and management. So really strong group of panelists here. If anyone has any questions, want to pose anything to our panelists. Going once, going twice? No? All right. Well, I'll close and just say, so again, from Access Communications perspective, we are a corporate citizen here in Atlanta. We recently opened an experience center in Buckhead, but our real estate today is a little 6-foot table right outside the hallway over there. Myself and 2 colleagues are here. Would love to talk about what your technology initiatives are, whether you're within city, county, municipal government, or some other vertical sector. We work a lot within infrastructure and securing and protecting and monitoring infrastructure. So we'd love to talk to you about those type of things. If you're ever in Atlanta and you want to visit our permanent facility, we're up in Buckhead right at Peachtree Street and Lenox at the Pinnacle Building. So we have what we call an Access Experience Center there. It's not really a office where a lot of people work out of. You're not going to go see a cubicle farm there. But we have a really good, strong demonstration area, a live demonstration area of our technology and ecosystem partners' technologies and offerings. There's a mock security operations center there, a conference room and a training room that we hold about 24, 25 in a training room. So if you're ever anxious to come up there and kind of see and understand what type of IoT technologies there are available to help you reach your technology objectives and serve your organization or your community, we'd love to host you there. And you can come see us out at that table, and we'll be glad to share contact information. Thank you to each of our panelists, Marshall, Cadell, Tony, Jeff. Really appreciate you adding your expertise to the discussion here. And we'll close with that. Thank you.